Hey y'all, so I recently saw the Martha Stewart documentary on Netflix, and there was so many gems in that documentary. It definitely helped me get a new respect for Martha Stewart and her story and her experience. And being from Connecticut, I had no idea that she lived in Connecticut at some point. So I was really fascinated about how she created her own homestead, and just started to kind of do a deep dive into like what Martha Stewart represented to women at the time when she was at the height of her career. And even when she went through her downfall, when she had to go to court and eventually went to jail. But the thing that resonated with me the most in her documentary is when she talked about perfectionism. She grew up in a household where her father was highly critical of them when he was trying to teach them how to keep up with the farm. And so she kind of carried that into her adulthood, into her relationships, into her mothering. And she really honors that in the documentary, as she talked about like how she was always trying to be perfect and always trying to uphold this image. And even when she had gotten in trouble with the law, she had still, I believe, and from a therapist's point of view, I think had a really hard time admitting that maybe possibly she did make a mistake. And that perfectionism and that need to keep up an image, I think even played a part in her eventual reckoning when it came to the justice system. But I wanted to really reiterate, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of falling and the falls in our lives. And the reckoning that comes from those mistakes, that really helps us become who we were always meant to be. And sometimes I think what happens when we experience situations where maybe we're embarrassed, or maybe we made a very public mistake and we experience public embarrassment, that it may bring up some shame associated from our childhood, where maybe we weren't allowed to make mistakes, or maybe we had a caregiver who was highly critical of us. It made it feel almost impossible to make a mistake, and that it would be some image or some reflection of who we are as human beings, and that it would make us feel like we didn't just do a bad thing, or we are bad people. And so I think when I hear her story about healing from perfectionism, and that her healing came from her down for what we consider her downfall in her career, or when she had had to go to jail, that it opened her up to who she was always meant to be. She talked about when she was in prison, she started a program where she helped the inmates with their business plans, and she helped them with their confidence, and she helped educate them on what it took for her to become the first woman billionaire. And that when she came out, that her heart had changed, that she had wanted to support women in business, and she wanted to teach women what it took to become successful entrepreneurs, that it expanded past just how to keep up a great home, how to cook a good meal, but that she learned that her purpose was to help people see their own. And so I think the really cool thing about her storyline is healing from perfectionism really, really challenges us and pushes us into a space of vulnerability. It pushes us to gain a new awareness of ourselves outside of other people's validation. And when you experience a very publicly humiliating and embarrassing experience, as Martha Stewart did, you really learn to separate how people feel about you from who you are, right? When you are in a when you're in a position, and not just Martha Stewart, but just who we are as regular people, sometimes we like to define ourselves by how other people feel about us. And when we go through experiences like this, we have no other choice but to learn how to love and accept ourselves, and to stand on our own 10, and to not realize, and to separate who we are by how other people define us. And so a small kind of lesson on perfectionism is that it's okay to do something different. It's okay for other people not to understand your experience, and to really fall into purpose. When you make a mistake, it opens you up to to the possibilities of who you are and who you're meant to be and who you are in the present moment, separate from your conditioning, separate from what your mom or your dad or your grandparents or your siblings or even your bosses or people who had authority over you in the past have told you that you need to be. But you're able to challenge that conditioning and say, who do I really want to be in this world? And if you're okay with it, you're okay with it, and you don't need other people to affirm what you already know about yourself. And to see her kind of live in that freedom now, right, where she has gone through that experience, she learned who was for her, she learned who was against her. She also learned to live in her authenticity, right? Biggest lesson and biggest takeaway from coming out of perfectionism is to live in our authenticity. What does it mean to really be happy with who we are? And now she's doing that, and maybe part of being happy in who she is still kind of showing us great meals, great recipes, and how to keep up a home. But also she's able to operate in a different experience where she's able to teach women how to come back, right? How to rise when you fall, how to build new relationships with people from a more authentic point of view, and to walk away from what doesn't serve us, and to be okay with your story. So I love the Martha Stewart documentary. I think it taught us a lot about recovering from people pleasing. It taught us a lot about recovering perfectionism, how to be resilient, how to bounce back when you go through an experience that might bring you a lot of shame, and how to heal the trauma narratives in our lives from family conditioning to become who we're always meant to be in the world. All right, so if you get a chance, check out Martha Stewart's documentary. This is just a therapist's point of view. If you are interested in booking a one-on-one discovery call from me, please reach out, DM me, email me at hello.alteredtherapy@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you all soon. Enjoy your Veterans Day. Thank you for your service for all those who are veterans that follow the page, and take good care.